My wife cheated on me with our neighbor. They never expected I would humiliate them like this. My name is Benjamin Coleman, 31, and I come from one of Boston's oldest investment families. The stack of papers I held contained evidence that would shatter my life. I'd spent the whole night examining them. Private investigator reports, credit card statements, secretly taken photos. The papers felt heavy in my hands, each page another blow to the life I thought I had. The smell of expensive bourbon lingered in the air of my mahogany-paneled office, a half-empty glass sitting untouched since midnight. They all pointed to one conclusion. My wife, Elise, was cheating on me with our next-door neighbor and so-called friend, Ryan Hastings. The digital clock on my office wall showed 3:27 a.m., its soft blue glow the only light besides my desk lamp. I carefully filed the evidence and locked it in my safe, the metal cold against my fingertips. My hands weren't shaking. What I felt wasn't anger, but cold determination, a chill that had settled into my bones as the truth became undeniable. Colemans never lose control. My father had taught me that from a young age, his stern face and unwavering voice echoing in my memory. A Coleman never acts on emotion, Benjamin, he would say, his hand firm on my shoulder. He thinks strategically, waits for the right moment, then makes his move. Like chess, not checkers. That time had come, and I was ready. I met Elise 7 years ago at a charity gala in New York. The memory was still vivid. Her emerald green dress standing out among the sea of black tuxedos, her laugh carrying across the room. She was an art gallery curator then, intelligent, beautiful, passionate. Her eyes lit up when she spoke about emerging artists, her hands gesturing animatedly. She impressed me from our first conversation, challenging my opinions on modern art with a confidence I found irresistible. 6 months later, we were married under a canopy of white roses in the Coleman family garden. For 5 years, our marriage seemed perfect. I had financially supported her in opening an art gallery in the wing of our family mansion in Beacon Hill, converting the space with skylights and custom lighting that made her gasp when I revealed it. I thought we had a relationship built on mutual respect and trust, the kind my parents never had. My suspicions began about 9 months ago. Small things at first, the way she'd leave the room for unexpected phone calls, her voice dropping to a whisper. Suddenly, cancelled plans when we were supposed to attend the symphony. Staying late for gallery work that somehow never reflected in the sales reports I still reviewed as her primary investor. She no longer wanted to accompany me on weekend business trips like before, claiming the gallery couldn't run without her constant presence. "You're being paranoid, Ben," she would say when I asked, her hand patting mine with a slight impatience I'd never noticed before. "The gallery just takes up so much of my time. I'm preparing for a major exhibition." The casual dismissal in her tone made my stomach tighten, but I pushed the feeling away. I wanted to believe her. Maybe I really was being paranoid, letting my father's warnings about marriage cloud my judgment. After all, Coleman men were known for their suspicion, not their successful marriages. 7 months ago, Ryan Hastings moved into the mansion next door, a sprawling Victorian that had stood empty for nearly a year. Mid-30s, successful tech entrepreneur with carefully tousled dark hair and the relaxed confidence of someone who'd made his own fortune rather than inherited it. We met during morning runs. I would run along the Charles River every morning at 6:30, the rhythm of my expensive running shoes against the pavement a meditation of sorts. One crisp morning, I saw him on the same route, keeping pace easily. We chatted, discovered common interests, single malt whiskey, historical biographies, sailing. His knowledge seemed genuine, his admiration for my family's legacy in Boston finance appropriately respectful, without being sycophantic. We quickly became friends, the kind of easy male friendship I'd rarely experienced growing up in the competitive pressure cooker of Boston's elite. Ryan started joining us for dinner. He and Elise got along well. Too well, I now realize. They talked about art, discussed the same obscure books, laughed at references I didn't understand. At the time, I thought it was innocent. I was even pleased. My wife was expanding her social circle, beyond the sometimes stifling confines of Boston's old money society. My first concrete suspicion came when I accidentally saw a message from Ryan on Elise's phone. She had left it on the kitchen counter while making coffee, the screen lighting up with a notification. "Last night was incredible. I miss you already." My blood ran cold, but before I could process it, Elise quickly snatched the phone from my hand, her fingers fumbling slightly. "He's talking about a new sculpture that arrived at the gallery," she said quickly, a slight flush creeping up her neck. "For a special exhibition. He helped me install it last night." I couldn't sleep that night, staring at the ceiling while Elise breathed evenly beside me, seemingly without a care. The next day, I confronted her in our breakfast nook, the morning light casting harsh shadows across her face. Looking me in the eyes, she swore everything was fine, that she would never cheat on me. There were tears in her eyes, her hand clutching mine with what seemed like genuine distress. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off, like when an investment prospect has perfect numbers, but still makes your instincts scream warning. Another week passed. My suspicions grew, rather than diminished. I noticed patterns. Elise closing her screen when she saw me while texting, the slight catch in her breath when Ryan's name was mentioned at dinner parties, blushing slightly, telling me she'd stay at the gallery during my business trips, but then being unreachable on her phone. All this was eating away at me, turning our luxurious home into a space filled with doubt and unspoken questions. Finally, I made a decision over a glass of my father's favorite scotch in his old study. If I was being paranoid, there was only one way to find out. I would hire a private investigator. I reached out to Marcus Reeves, a former FBI agent who had previously worked for our family business on corporate matters. His discretion was legendary, his methods effective. He arrived at my office wearing an unremarkable gray suit, his weathered face betraying nothing. "I want you to follow my wife," I said directly, pouring him a drink he didn't touch, "especially her interactions with our neighbor Ryan Hastings." Marcus showed no surprise, his pen already making notes in a small leather notebook. "Understood, Mr. Coleman. How long?" "Until you find definitive evidence," I said, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. "Or until you prove I'm wrong." Part of me still hoped for the latter. When I met with Marcus in my office a week later, his expression was professional, but there was something in his eyes, a mixture of sympathy and discomfort, that made my stomach clench before he even spoke. "Mr. Coleman," he said, placing a thick manila file on my polished mahogany desk, "I've completed the surveillance and there are some interesting findings." When I opened the file, the first report surprised me. Marcus had followed Elise for 3 days. Each day she went to the gallery, went out for lunch at a small French bistro on Newbury Street, then returned and came home in the evening at a reasonable hour. No contact with Ryan. The normality of it almost made me laugh with relief. "This is not what I expected," I said in surprise, my shoulders relaxing slightly. "Turn the page," said Marcus, his voice gentle but firm. On the second page were Elise's credit card transactions, neatly highlighted in yellow. Gas station purchases every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 2 months, always at the same Shell station off the highway. She normally took public transport to the gallery, claiming to enjoy the time to read and plan her day. "She's driving somewhere far enough to need a car," said Marcus. "But where?" My throat tightened as I moved to the third page. Marcus had placed a GPS tracking device on Elise's car, completely legal as the vehicle was registered in my name. A regular route was traced on the map in red ink, north from Boston to a point near the New Hampshire border, tucked away in wooded seclusion. "There's a small house in a wooded area north of Concord," said Marcus, his finger tracing the route. "Modern design, very private, apparently registered to Ryan Hastings through an LLC. Purchased 9 months ago, before he even moved next door. According to credit card records, furniture, decorating materials, and regular grocery deliveries have been purchased." My heart raced, a pounding in my ears nearly drowning out Marcus's voice. "Did you go there?" Marcus nodded. "Yesterday. I observed from a distance with high-powered optics. Here it is. He showed a series of photos, each one more damning than the last. In the first photo, there was a modern cabin hidden in the forest, all glass and cedar, the kind of architectural statement piece featured in design magazines. In the second, Elise's silver Mercedes was parked next to Ryan's Range Rover in the gravel driveway, both vehicles looking perfectly at home. And the next photo, it shook me deeply. The interior was visible through large windows that faced the forest, clearly designed with privacy in mind, but not from the specific angle Marcus had managed to capture. Elise and Ryan were drinking wine in front of a stone fireplace, her head resting comfortably on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. An intimate setting, casual clothes. They looked completely at ease, as if they lived there, as if it were their home, not a secret meeting place. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice low and controlled despite the roaring in my ears. According to real estate records, he bought the house 9 months ago, but according to locals I spoke with, they've been coming regularly on weekdays since February, about 7 months. Right from when Ryan moved in. The timeline suddenly made perfect sense. The house purchased first, then the convenient move next door, the contrived meeting during my morning run that I now realized couldn't have been coincidental. This wasn't a spontaneous affair. It was a calculated infiltration. "Do you need more evidence?" asked Marcus, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. "Yes," I said, not taking my eyes off the photos, memorizing every detail of their betrayal. "I want to know what's happening inside. Audio recordings, more photos, everything. Leave no stone unturned." My voice had taken on a hardness I recognized from my father's most difficult business negotiations. For the next 2 weeks, Marcus conducted a thorough investigation with military precision. He placed hidden cameras near the forest house, disguised as bird nesting boxes. He installed audio recording devices that could capture conversations through windows. He documented every move Ryan and Elise made, creating a comprehensive record of their deception. As the evidence mounted, I took my second step. I got help from a friend in our technology company's security team to access Elise's emails and messages. It wasn't ethical, but I no longer cared about ethics, not when my entire marriage had been revealed as a sham. The encryption fell away, revealing years of correspondence. The messages confirmed my suspicions, creating a timeline of betrayal. Correspondence with Ryan that began months ago had changed over time. The first messages were innocent, discussions about art and gallery business. Then they became increasingly personal, filled with inside jokes and subtle flirtations. Finally, the forest house plans had begun. Ryan: "I'm imagining a place that's just ours, away from Boston, where nobody knows. Somewhere we can be ourselves, without pretending." Elise: "But how will I explain it? I already tell him my gallery work is busy, every day." Ryan: "He won't suspect. He's so buried in his work, he doesn't even notice what's happening around him. Coleman men are all the same, they see spreadsheets, not people." These messages wounded me deeply, each word a knife twisting in my chest. I hadn't just been cheated on, I'd been made a fool. Worse, they were using my work intensity, my dedication to maintaining the family business, as the perfect cover for their relationship. The same work that had provided Elise with the lifestyle she enjoyed was now her excuse to betray me. When Marcus's final report arrived, bound in a black leather portfolio, I now had a complete file. Photos, audio recordings, messages, financial records. They all told the same story. My wife and best friend had been living a secret life for 7 months, meticulously planned and executed with a level of deception that would have impressed my business adversaries. The most painful recording was captured during a dinner at the forest house, the audio crystal clear despite being recorded from outside. Elise: "Sometimes I feel bad, he's a good man." Her voice contained more resignation than genuine remorse. Ryan: "But not like us. He doesn't understand us. Art, culture, the subtleties of life. He only sees numbers and deals. When was the last time he looked at a sunset without checking his phone? or discussed anything besides business or Boston society gossip. Elise laughs. True. He even said he suspected something the other day. I looked him in the face and denied everything. It was so easy to make him believe. He trusts me completely. That's what makes it. She paused, and I could imagine her face, the slight crease between her eyebrows when she was searching for words. Convenient, Ryan supplied. I was going to say painful, she answered, but followed it with another laugh that negated any genuine guilt. At this point, I was done grieving. The initial shock had crystallized into something harder, colder. There was only icy determination inside me, a clarity of purpose I'd previously only experienced during the most critical business negotiations. I needed to make a plan, a Coleman-style plan, thorough, strategic, and devastating in its execution. My third step was to protect myself financially. Most of our assets were already protected by a prenuptial agreement my father had insisted upon, but I still consulted with our family's attorney, Harold Winters, a man who'd served 3 generations of Colemans with bulldog loyalty. We prepared for every possible scenario, securing digital assets and reviewing the specific infidelity clauses in our agreement. Evidence accumulated over 2 months, filling a secure cloud server and a physical safe in my office. The pattern was undeniable. Elise and Ryan met 3 times a week. At the Forest House, sometimes at boutique hotels outside Boston when the house might draw attention. They were methodical, careful. They never met at our house or Ryan's mansion. No digital footprint of calls between their primary phones, always using secondary devices. They were very careful, which only increased my determination to be more careful still. During this time, I continued my friendship with Ryan, a performance that deserved an Oscar. Our morning runs along the river, our whiskey tastings in my study, even sharing my business connections with him. It all continued with mechanical precision. This was the hardest part, smiling at a man who betrayed me, discussing market trends and Boston politics, joking with him as if he wasn't ruining my life. Each conversation was an exercise in control. Every shared laugh a testament to the Coleman discipline my father had instilled. 3 months later, an opportunity arose like a gift from fate itself. I was to receive the Investor of the Year award at the Boston Business Leadership Awards, an honor my father had received twice during his career. It was a prestigious event covered by local and financial media, the city's elite dressed in their finest, an evening of networking and subtle power displays. Elise would of course be by my side as my wife, dressed impeccably for the photographers, and I had invited Ryan, my best friend, after all. My plan was clear, forming in my mind with perfect clarity one night as I watched them through Marcus's surveillance feed, laughing together in their secret home. After receiving the award, I would make a surprise during my acceptance speech. But first, I needed to think through all the details, considering every contingency like a chess grandmaster planning 8 moves ahead. A week before the award ceremony, I had my final meeting with Harold in his wood-paneled office overlooking Boston Common. The divorce petition was ready to be filed electronically the moment I gave the word after the award night. Harold had highlighted the key sections for my review, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he explained what would happen. Our prenuptial agreement clearly stated that in case of infidelity, no financial claims could be made beyond what was brought into the marriage, he reminded me, tapping the document with a manicured finger. Given the evidence you've gathered, this is airtight. She'll get nothing from the Coleman holdings. I nodded, a grim satisfaction settling over me. And the gallery? As specified in your investment agreement, you can recall all funding with 30 days' notice. The space remains yours as part of the family property. I could also take back all my investments in the gallery, effectively ending Elise's career in Boston's art world with a single signature. The business side was settled. I had plans for Ryan too. He was meeting with me the following week to discuss becoming a key investor in his technology company's latest funding round, $12 million for a promising AI platform. The company showed great potential, but needed capital to scale before larger competitors could catch up. That investment would never happen. Moreover, I could ensure other doors closed thanks to my connections in Boston's business world, where old money still spoke with a whisper that everyone heeded. When the day of the award ceremony arrived, I acted as usual, adjusting my bow tie in the mirror, as Elise fussed with her hair in our master bathroom. She was particularly excited that day, not for her husband's big award, of course, but because Ryan would be there, another opportunity to play their game under my nose. "You seem unusually happy about a business dinner," I remarked casually, watching her reaction in the mirror. She smiled, applying another coat of lipstick, the expensive kind I'd given her for our anniversary. "I'm proud of you, Ben. This award is a big deal." The lie came easily to her now, I realized. Practice makes perfect. At the black tie event, Boston's most elite 500 people had gathered in the grand hall of the Fairmont Copley Plaza, crystal chandeliers glittering above round tables, adorned with white orchids. Elise wore a red Valentino dress that had arrived in a box 2 days earlier, a dress I'd paid for without comment. Ryan was at our table, in his impeccable tuxedo, making small talk with the CEO of Boston's largest banking group. They occasionally exchanged glances across the table, secretly touched hands when passing the bread basket, thinking I was engrossed in conversation with the woman to my right. Award time came after the main course had been cleared, the room hushing as the chairman of the selection committee took the stage. My name was announced with a glowing introduction about the Coleman legacy and my own innovations in venture funding. I went on stage to enthusiastic applause, the spotlight warm on my face. I received the Crystal Award and gave a brief acceptance speech, expressing gratitude for my family legacy, my company team, and my supportive wife, with just the right amount of expected emotion. "And now," I said towards the end of my speech, champagne glass raised, "I'd like to invite 2 special people who helped me along this journey to the stage. My dear wife Elise and my closest friend Ryan." They both looked surprised, exchanging a quick glance before composing themselves and coming on stage. Cameras were rolling, phones raised to capture the moment, the hall applauding what they assumed was a touching tribute. Elise's hand trembled slightly as I took it, positioning her beside me. "These 2 people hold a very important place in my life," I continued, smiling for the cameras, my voice steady. "They're so close that they've been meeting every week for the past 7 months at a forest house north of Concord." A shocking gasp rose from the hall, the sound of 500 people inhaling simultaneously. Elise's face turned white beneath her carefully applied blush. Ryan froze beside her, his easy confidence evaporating in an instant. "Yes, dear guests," I said, signaling to the technical team to project a few photos I had taken from my pocket onto the hall screen behind us. "My wife and best friend are cheating on me, and I wanted to share this with you, because as the Coleman family, we value honesty and transparency above all else." The photos that appeared on the screen weren't inappropriate. I had too much class for that. Just images of the 2 entering the forest house, drinking wine by the fireplace, his arm around her shoulder. They were the most innocent frames taken by the detective. But in this context, with them standing beside me on stage, they were more than enough to convey the message. The room was so silent you could hear the ice clinking in drinks across the hall. "Also," I added, my voice carrying perfectly through the stunned silence, "a reminder to Elise, read our prenuptial agreement section 8.3 carefully. My lawyer will call you tomorrow morning. And Ryan, do I need to tell you that I won't be accepting the investment proposal for Clearwater Tech? I suspect you'll find other potential investors suddenly unavailable." I left the stage and headed straight for the exit, not looking back, the Crystal Award still in my hand. I had left chaos behind me. From the corner of my eye, I could see Elise trying to follow me, crying mascara tears down her cheeks. Ryan frozen in shock on the stage, guests half rising from their seats, phones already being used to spread the news across Boston's elite circles. I told the valet to bring my car, handing him a $100 bill to expedite the process. I got in and drove toward the Cape Cod house that had belonged to our family for years, a place where Elise had never been welcome, my father's one insistence when I married her. My phone kept ringing. Elise, Ryan, journalists, business associates. I ignored them all, the coastal highway empty at this hour, my mind finally quiet. When I arrived at the seaside house 3 hours later, I poured myself a drink and stood on the deck overlooking the moonlit Atlantic. My phone had gone silent for a moment. When I opened it, I saw the headline already spreading on the Boston Globe website. Shocking revelation at Coleman Award ceremony. Boston society shaken. The next morning, Harold called as I watched the sunrise over the ocean. The divorce petition had been filed electronically at midnight, already assigned to a judge known for his conservative views on marriage. Since the prenuptial agreement was solid and the evidence overwhelming, Elise would get nothing beyond her personal belongings. All investments I had made for the gallery would be withdrawn, the space reclaimed for the family trust. "She's called 8 times already," Harold said. "I haven't answered." "Good," I replied. "Let her lawyer do the talking." A week later, I learned that Ryan's company had failed to complete its investment round, with many Boston investors suddenly developing concerns about management integrity. The company was in trouble, tech blogs already speculating about a fire sale. I saw that Ryan had also put his mansion up for sale, the listing appearing with unusual speed. There was no place for him in Boston anymore, not in business, not in society. The old money circles might forgive many things, but humiliating a Coleman wasn't among them. Elise tried to contact me several times through Harold. She wanted to apologize, to explain, to beg for discretion. I didn't respond. She was no longer welcome in social circles either, invitations drying up overnight. A month later, I heard she had moved back to New York, taking a minor position at a gallery in Brooklyn, a far cry from owning her own space on Beacon Hill. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized with minimal fuss, the judge's ruling exactly as Harold had predicted. The same day, I moved to California for the opening of our company's new San Francisco office, a strategic expansion I'd been planning for years. A new beginning, a new life, in a city where innovation mattered more than family names. What happened in Boston was of course talked about for a while, becoming the cautionary tale told in whispers at charity galas, but eventually forgotten as new scandals emerged. I haven't forgotten, but I no longer feel anger when I think of them. Only a distant pity for people who thought they could outsmart me, who believed their little deception could stand against generations of Coleman's strategic thinking. Because I wasn't the loser in this story. They were. A Coleman never loses. My father had taught me that from a young age, and finally, I understood exactly what he meant.